I, 28F, came home early from my girls' trip to surprise him. The trip was supposed to be a week-long escape to the beach with my best friend, Maya, 28F, and a few other friends. But on the second day, Maya said she was feeling sick. She had a terrible stomach bug, she claimed, and decided to fly home. I felt bad for her, but the rest of us decided to stay. 2 days later, a storm system moved in, canceling all the fun we had planned. The forecast showed rain for the rest of the week. We all decided to cut our losses and head home. I didn't call my husband, Leo. I wanted to walk in and see the look on his face. I pictured him on the couch, probably watching sports, and how he would light up when I walked through the door. The surprise would be a fun story to tell. I parked my car down the street, wanting to make my entrance completely silent. I used my key to quietly unlock the front door. The house was still. There were no lights on in the living room. I thought maybe he was asleep in our bedroom. I tiptoed up the stairs, my suitcase left by the door. As I got closer to our bedroom, I heard voices. A low murmur. My heart started to beat a little faster. Was he on the phone? Then I heard a laugh. It was a woman's laugh. It was a laugh I knew as well as my own. It was Maya's laugh. For a moment, my brain couldn't process it. Maya was supposed to be sick at her own apartment. Why was she here? Why was she in my bedroom with my husband? The door was slightly ajar. I could hear their words more clearly now. She really believed you were sick, Leo said, and he chuckled. It was a smug, ugly sound. Of course she did, Maya replied, her voice smooth as silk. Clara believes everything I tell her. She's so trusting. It's almost sad. The world tilted on its axis. My best friend. My husband. The floor felt like it was falling away from me. I leaned against the wall in the hallway, my hand over my mouth to stifle any sound. I couldn't breathe. My lungs felt like they were filled with cement. They were talking about me. They were laughing at me. Are you sure she won't come home early? Leo asked. That storm looked pretty bad. No, I told her I was going to try and come back to join them if I felt better, Maya said. She'll stay. She wouldn't want to waste the money. You know how she is about money. My money. The money from my father's inheritance that started our business. The money that paid for this house. The money she thought made me predictable and boring. I wanted to burst through the door. I wanted to scream until my throat was raw. I wanted to see their faces when they saw me. But a cold, clear thought cut through the rage. Don't let them see you. Don't give them the satisfaction of a fight. They think you are predictable. They think you are weak. Show them who you really are. My hand was shaking as I pulled out my phone. I backed away from the door, each step silent and deliberate. I crept down the stairs, my heart pounding in my ears. I slipped out the front door, closing it so gently it didn't even click. I got back into my car and drove away. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. The rain from the storm had started to fall, blurring the streetlights into long, watery streaks. My best friend and my husband, in my bed, laughing at me. The betrayal was a physical pain, a knife twisting in my gut. But underneath the pain, something else was starting to grow. It was a cold, hard anger. They had underestimated me. They had mistaken my kindness for weakness. That was a mistake they would both come to regret. I drove for an hour, aimlessly, the conversation playing over and over in my head. She's so trusting, you know how she is about money. They saw me as a fool and a piggy bank. Fine. The fool was about to show them just how much she knew about money. My hands stopped shaking. My breathing evened out. I had a plan. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to dismantle their world, piece by piece, using the very thing they mocked me for, my careful, methodical nature. And I was going to do it so quietly, they wouldn't know what hit them until it was far too late. I pulled over and called my brother, David. He was a lawyer, sharp and no-nonsense. He was the only person in the world I could trust completely. He answered on the second ring. Clara? I thought you were at the beach. Is everything okay? I'm fine, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. The trip got cut short. Can I come stay with you for a few days? I don't want to go home just yet. There was a pause. He knew me too well. What's wrong? I don't want to talk about it over the phone, I said. Just, can I come over? I need a place to think. Of course, he said immediately. My door is always open. Are you driving now? Yes, I said. Okay. Drive safe. I'll see you soon. I hung up and pointed the car in the direction of David's apartment. The first step of my plan was in motion. I needed a safe place to land. A base of operations. From there, I would start to build my war machine. The sun wouldn't be up for hours. By the time it rose, their comfortable little world would already be starting to crumble. They just wouldn't know it yet. The drive to David's felt like an eternity. Every traffic light, every turn, replayed their voices in my mind. Maya's condescending tone, Leo's casual cruelty. It was the casualness that hurt the most. It was as if my feelings were a complete non-factor, a piece of old furniture they had to maneuver around to get what they wanted. I had been married to Leo for 5 years. Maya had been my best friend since we were in kindergarten. We had shared secrets, clothes, and dreams. I was the maid of honor at her first wedding. She was mine. How could I have been so blind? When I arrived at David's building, he was waiting for me at the curb, an umbrella in hand to shield me from the persistent drizzle. He didn't press me for details. He just took my small overnight bag, wrapped an arm around my shoulders, and led me inside. His apartment was Spartan and clean, a reflection of his organized mind. He showed me to the guest room. Get some rest, he said gently. We can talk in the morning. Or not. Whatever you need. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. I was grateful for his quiet support, but I couldn't rest. Sleep was an impossible luxury. As soon as he closed the door, I took out my laptop. My mind was racing, connecting dots I had previously ignored. Little things. Leo being out with clients on nights Maya also happened to be busy. Maya borrowing a sweater and it coming back smelling faintly of Leo's cologne, a scent I knew so well. I had dismissed it all as coincidence. I had trusted them. The first thing I did was log into our shared personal bank accounts. Leo wasn't as careful with money as I was, but he knew I watched our finances. I scrolled through the recent transactions. There were the usual bills, groceries, gas. But then I saw it. A charge from a high-end jewelry store from 2 weeks ago. It was for $3,000. His birthday was coming up, so I had assumed he bought himself the new watch he'd been wanting. But now, a sickening suspicion crept in. I went to Maya's social media page. Her profile was public. I scrolled through her recent photos. There, in a picture she posted 3 days ago with the caption, "Feeling spoiled," was a new diamond necklace. It was delicate and expensive looking. It was the kind of thing I would have loved. And it was the kind of thing that would cost about $3,000. My breath hitched. He had bought it for her. With our money. Our joint money. Money that was half mine. The anger returned, colder and sharper this time. This wasn't just a betrayal of the heart. This was theft. It was a profound disrespect for our partnership, our marriage, and everything we had built together. Or rather, everything I had built. The business, a successful marketing firm, had been started with the inheritance my father left me when he passed away. Leo had been a junior account manager at another firm, full of big ideas but no capital. I believed in him. I believed in us. So I invested my entire inheritance, $100,000, to get us off the ground. We were equal partners on paper, but the foundation was mine. He often joked about it, calling me his angel investor. Now the term felt like a mockery. I switched from the personal accounts to the business accounts. This was where I held the real power. I was the one who managed the payroll, the invoices, the corporate credit cards. Leo handled the clients and the creative side. He found the details of accounting boring. "That's what I have you for," he would say with a charming smile. That charming smile now seemed like a mask for a con man. I started digging. I opened the expense reports for the last 6 months. Leo's were always higher than mine, full of client dinners and travel. I had never questioned them. I trusted him. Now I scrutinized every line item. A dinner for 4 at a steakhouse, but I knew the client he was supposedly meeting was a single man. A hotel stay in a city where we had no clients. And then I found the real smoking gun. A recurring monthly payment labeled consulting fees. It was for $5,000 paid out to a company called Innovate Solutions LLC. I had never heard of this company. We didn't use outside consultants. I had asked Leo about it once, a few months ago, and he had waved it off. Oh, that's for some web development and SEO work. It's a guy I know. He's giving us a great deal. I had accepted his answer, without a second thought. Now, my fingers flew across the keyboard as I opened a new tab and searched for Innovate Solutions LLC. The company was registered in our state. The registration documents were public record. I clicked the link, my heart pounding. The name of the registered agent, the sole proprietor of the company, was listed in black and white. Maya Reynolds. It was her. She was Innovate Solutions LLC. For at least 6 months, my husband had been funneling $5,000 a month from our business directly into my best friend's pocket.
$2,000.
Stolen from me, from the company my father's legacy had built. I leaned back, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. It was so much worse than I could have imagined. This wasn't a spontaneous, regrettable mistake. This was a long-term, calculated plan. They weren't just cheating on me, they were robbing me. They were building a life for themselves with my money. The last vestiges of my grief were burned away by a white-hot rage. The sadness was gone, replaced by a chilling clarity. They thought I was a fool. They thought I was a pushover. They had no idea what I was capable of. I opened a new spreadsheet. I began to document everything. The jewelry, the consulting fees, the fraudulent expense reports. I took screenshots.
He downloaded bank statements.
I saved email conversations where Leo had approved the payments to Maya's shell company. I was building a case, an airtight, undeniable case. David was a corporate lawyer, but he knew enough about family law and financial crimes to guide me. I knew what he would say. Document everything. Don't act on emotion. Use their own greed against them. The sky outside was beginning to lighten, turning from black to a deep indigo. I hadn't slept at all, but I wasn't tired. I was energized. I felt a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. They had started a war. I was going to finish it. I went to the kitchen and made a cup of coffee. As the coffee maker gurgled, I looked at my reflection in the dark kitchen window. I looked pale and tired, but my eyes were different. There was a hardness in them that wasn't there before. The trusting, happy-go-lucky woman I had been yesterday was gone forever. In her place was someone they would not recognize. I had full administrative access to all our accounts, personal and business. Leo never bothered to learn the passwords. He left it all to me, his organized wife. I could shut him down in an instant, freeze his cards, change the passwords. But a quick, clean strike wasn't enough. They deserved more than that. They deserved to feel the same humiliation and powerlessness they had intended for me. I decided on my first move. It would be small, subtle. A test. I logged back into the business banking portal. I navigated to the corporate credit card accounts. There was one under my name and one under Leo's. I found the section for card management. I lowered the daily spending limit on his card to $100. I lowered the cash advance limit to $0. It was a simple change, one that wouldn't trigger an immediate alert from the bank. But it would be enough to cause him inconvenience and confusion. He would probably try to buy lunch for a client or fill up his car, and his card would be declined. He would be embarrassed. It was a start. Then I went to our personal joint checking account. I did the same thing. I couldn't freeze it completely without him noticing right away. But I could set up alerts. Any transaction over $50 would send a notification directly to my phone. I would have a real-time record of every penny he spent. The coffee was ready. I poured a cup, my hand perfectly steady. Dawn was breaking. I imagined Leo and Maya waking up in my bed, smug and satisfied, completely unaware that their world was already tilting. Today, Leo would get his first taste of what was to come. A small, nagging inconvenience. A frustration he couldn't explain. He would call the bank and they would tell him the account was fine. He would be confused. He would be annoyed. And I would be watching. David came into the kitchen a little while later, dressed in a suit for work. He saw me at the table with my laptop, a spreadsheet glowing on the screen. He looked at my face, then at the spreadsheet, and his expression hardened. "Talk to me," he said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. So I told him. I told him everything. The voices in the hallway, the laughter, the jewelry, the shell company. I showed him the bank statements and the company registration. I spoke in a calm, even voice, laying out the facts as if I were presenting a case in court. When I was finished, he was silent for a long moment. He stared at the screen, his jaw tight. "The arrogance," he finally whispered. "To do it with your own money. To set up a shell corporation. They thought I would never find out," I said. "They think I'm stupid, David." "No," he said, looking at me. "They're the stupid ones. This isn't just cheating, Clara. This is felony embezzlement.
Fraud.
You have enough here to send them both to jail."
Jail.
The thought was both terrifying and satisfying. But I didn't want them in jail. Not yet. Jail was too simple. I wanted them to understand what they had done. I wanted them to lose everything they had tried to steal from me. Their reputation.
Their social standing.
Their financial security. "What do I do?" I asked. "First, you do nothing," he said. "You let him think everything is normal. He's going to text you today, asking where you are. You tell him you're still on the trip. You tell him Maya is still with you, feeling a little better.
You lie.
You lie your face off. We need to get all our ducks in a row before you make your move." "What ducks?" I asked. "I'm going to make some calls," he said. "I have a friend who specializes in forensic accounting. We need a full audit of the business accounts going back to the beginning. We need to know the exact dollar amount they've stolen. I also know the best, most ruthless divorce attorney in the city. We're going to meet with her this afternoon. You're not just going to divorce him, Clara. You're going to erase him." He pointed to my laptop. "Keep doing this. Document every single thing. Every email. Every transaction. Create a timeline. The more evidence we have, the less room they have to maneuver. They've built their own cage. We're just going to lock the door." My phone buzzed. It was a text from Leo. "Morning, sunshine. Hope you're having fun. Miss you." I felt a wave of nausea. I showed the text to David. He just nodded grimly. "Time to be an actress," he said. I took a deep breath and typed out a reply. "Morning. The weather is still pretty bad, but we're making the most of it. Maya is feeling a bit better today. We might try to go for a walk on the beach later. Miss you too." I added a little heart emoji at the end. It felt like poison on my fingertips.
Perfect, David said.
He has no idea. He's walking right into the trap. He was right. Leo had no idea. He thought he was in control. He thought he was the smart one. But his world was a house of cards, and I was about to pull out the bottom one. The $100 limit on his credit card was just the beginning. I was just getting started. Throughout the day, I continued my digital excavation. I felt like an archaeologist uncovering a lost, corrupt civilization. The deeper I dug, the more dirt I found. I accessed our shared cloud storage, where photos were automatically backed up from our phones. I found a hidden folder. It was password protected, but Leo was predictable. He used the name of his childhood dog. I tried it. The folder opened. It was filled with pictures of him and Maya. Pictures of them on dates I had paid for with my boring expense tracking. Pictures of them on a weekend trip to a vineyard. The same weekend, he told me he had to go on a business retreat. They were kissing, laughing, holding hands. They looked like a happy couple. In one photo, Maya was wearing the diamond necklace, her head thrown back in a joyous laugh, her hand on Leo's chest. The photo was a dagger to my heart, but I saved it. I saved all of them. Each photo was another nail in their coffin. Then I found the videos. Short clips of them in hotel rooms, clinking champagne glasses. In one, Leo was filming Maya as she modeled the new necklace for the camera. "Do you like it, baby?" he asked from behind the camera. I love it, she purred. But I love the man who gave it to me even more. I had to close my laptop. I walked to the window and took several deep breaths. The casual intimacy, the pet names, the sheer brazenness of it all was overwhelming. This wasn't a fling. They were in love. Or at least, they had built a convincing imitation of it, funded by my life's work and my father's memory. My phone buzzed again. It was Leo. Tried to get gas, and the card was declined. So weird. Called the bank, and they said there was no issue. Must be their machine. So annoying. I smiled. A cold, thin smile. Oh no. That's so frustrating. I texted back. Maybe try another station?
Yeah, I will.
Anyway, how's your day? The banality of his question was staggering. He was living a double life, and he was asking about my day as if we were any normal, happy couple. It's good, I typed. Just relaxing. Don't worry about the card. I'm sure it's just a glitch. He thinks it's a glitch. The thought gave me a surge of power. He was looking for a technical problem, an external reason for his inconvenience. It would never occur to him that the problem was me. That afternoon, David took me to see the divorce attorney, a woman named Eleanor Vance. She was in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a reputation for being a shark. Her office was sleek and modern, overlooking the city from the 40th floor. I felt small and out of place, but David's presence beside me was a comfort. I told her the story, just as I had told David. I showed her the spreadsheet, the photos, the company registration for Maya's shell corporation. I didn't cry. I laid out the facts calmly and concisely. Eleanor listened without interruption, her fingers steepled under her chin. When I finished, she looked at me with a new respect. Most people in your position come in here a wreck, she said, her voice crisp. They are emotional. They make mistakes. You, on the other hand, have come in with a gift-wrapped case. This is not a divorce negotiation. This is a surrender. She looked at David. The embezzlement claim is solid. The fraud is blatant. We can use this as leverage to get everything. What is everything? I asked. The house. The business. All liquid assets that can be traced back to your inheritance. We will leave him with his personal belongings and enough to find a new apartment. He will sign over his 50% share in the company for a nominal fee of $1 in exchange for you not pressing criminal charges. And Maya? I asked, my voice tight. We will send a separate letter to Ms. Reynolds, Eleanor said, a predatory glint in her eye. We will demand the return of the $30,000 paid to her shell company, plus the value of any gifts purchased with joint funds, like that necklace. If she refuses, we will not only sue her civilly, but we will forward our findings to the district attorney's office. Fraud is a serious crime. She could be looking at prison time. My guess is she will pay up. The plan was brutal. It was ruthless. And it was exactly what I wanted. They had tried to take everything from me behind my back. I was going to take it all back in broad daylight. What's the next step? David asked. We continue to gather evidence, Eleanor said. The forensic accountant your brother mentioned is a great idea. We need a precise number. In the meantime, Ms. Collins, she said, turning to me, you continue to play the part of the loving, unsuspecting wife. Do not tip your hand. Let him get more and more frustrated by these little glitches. Let him feel confused and powerless. When he is at his most desperate, that is when we strike. I left Eleanor's office feeling lighter than I had in days. I had a team. I had a plan. The path forward was clear. That evening, Leo called me. His voice was tight with frustration. I don't know what is going on, he said. My card got declined again. I was trying to buy groceries. The corporate card or our personal one? I asked, feigning concern. The personal one. I had to use my debit card. It was embarrassing. There were people behind me in line.
Good.
I thought. Let him be embarrassed. That is so strange, Leo, I said. I just checked the account online, and it says there's plenty of money in there. Maybe you should call the bank again in the morning and ask them to check the chip in your card. It might be faulty. Maybe, he grumbled. This is just so annoying. I have a big client dinner tomorrow night, and I can't have my card getting declined. A client dinner. I knew exactly which client he meant. It was Maya's birthday tomorrow. The jewelry, the weekend trips, it all made sense now. He was planning a big celebration for her. A celebration I was unknowingly funding. Don't worry, I said, my voice sweet as honey. I'll tell you what, I'll call the bank for you in the morning and see what's going on. Maybe they'll listen to me. Would you? He said, his voice softening with relief. Thanks, Clara. You're the best. Anything for you, I said, and hung up the phone. I sat in the quiet of David's apartment and let out a long, slow breath. You're the best, his words echoed in my ears. He had no idea. He was counting on me to fix his problem, to smooth things over like I always did. He was walking right into the final act of his own downfall. Tomorrow was Maya's birthday. Tomorrow he was planning a celebration. I decided then and there that tomorrow would be the day I gave them a celebration they would never forget. It would be the day the world, as they knew it, came to an end. The next morning, I woke up with a singular focus.
Today was the day.
David had already left for work, but he'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Eleanor's office is on standby. The accountant has a preliminary report. Call me when you're ready to pull the trigger. The forensic accountant's report was waiting in my inbox. I opened it. The total was even higher than I had calculated. Leo and Maya had managed to siphon off nearly $50,000 from the business over the last 8 months. The report was detailed, meticulous, and damning. I saved it to a secure folder and forwarded a copy to Eleanor and David. Then, I began the final stage of my plan. I logged into the business banking portal. This time, I didn't just lower the limits. I went to the account administration panel. My name was listed as the primary administrator. I had the power to add or remove users. I found Leo's profile. With a single click, I changed his status from administrator to no access. Then I changed the master password to the entire account. Next, I logged into our personal joint accounts. I used the online transfer tool to move 95% of the money from our shared checking and savings accounts into a new, separate account that I had opened yesterday in my name only. I left just $500 in the joint account. Enough to not be completely empty, but not enough for anything significant. Finally, I went to the corporate credit card portal. I had already lowered the limit on his card. Now I logged in and reported his card as lost or stolen. This would trigger an immediate and irreversible freeze on the card. He wouldn't be able to get it reactivated with a simple phone call. The bank would have to issue a new one, which would take days. It was done. In the space of 15 minutes, I had systematically cut off his access to every single penny of our shared finances. He was financially stranded. My phone rang. It was Leo. I let it go to voicemail. I needed to be the one to initiate the next contact, on my own terms. A few minutes later, a string of texts came through. Clara, call me. The bank just sent me an alert that my card was reported stolen. What is going on? Did you do this? Clara, answer your phone. I can't access the business account. The password isn't working. This isn't funny. I have a huge dinner tonight. I need that card. His panic was palpable, even through text messages. It gave me a grim sense of satisfaction. He was finally feeling a fraction of the powerlessness I had felt standing in that hallway. I waited a full hour before I responded. I wanted him to stew in his fear and confusion. Finally, I sent a simple text. I'm on my way home. We need to talk. Home? I thought you were on your trip. What about Maya? He texted back immediately. Maya is fine, I replied. I'll be there in an hour. I called David.
It's time, I said.
Are you sure you're ready? He asked, his voice steady. I'm ready, I said. I'm on my way to the house now. Okay, he said. Eleanor has already drafted the separation agreement and the cease and desist letter for Maya. They're ready to be sent the moment you give the word. Remember what we talked about.
Stay calm. State the facts.
Don't let him draw you into an emotional fight. You hold all the cards, Clara. Don't forget that. I won't, I said. I drove to my house. Our house. It looked different now. It was no longer a home filled with happy memories. It was a crime scene. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw his car. He was home. He was waiting. I took a deep breath, gathered my purse, and walked to the front door. I unlocked it and stepped inside. He was standing in the foyer, his face a mixture of anger and confusion. "Clara, what the hell is going on?" he demanded. "Why are you home? And what did you do to our accounts? I've been on the phone with the bank for an hour. They said you froze everything." "Hello, Leo," I said, my voice as calm as a frozen lake. I walked past him into the living room and sat down on the sofa. I placed my purse beside me. "We need to talk." "Talk? I don't want to talk. I want you to fix this," he said, following me into the room. He was practically vibrating with anxiety. "I have reservations at the Grandview tonight for Maya's birthday. I can't pay for it if my cards are frozen." He admitted it. Just like that. He was so consumed by his own logistical nightmare that he didn't even realize he had confessed. I looked at him. Really looked at him. The charming, handsome man I had married was gone. In his place was a desperate, cornered animal. "I know," I said quietly. He stopped. "You know? You know what?" "I know about the dinner," I said. "I know about the necklace. I know about the weekend trips. I know about Innovate Solutions LLC." The color drained from his face. He stared at me, his mouth slightly open. For the first time, a flicker of genuine fear appeared in his eyes. He finally understood that this was not a banking error.
What? What are you talking about? He stammered.
"I came home early, Leo," I said, my voice still quiet, but with an edge of steel. "I came home 2 nights ago. I heard you. I heard you and Maya in our bedroom, laughing about how trusting I am." He sank onto the chair opposite me as if his legs could no longer support him. He looked utterly defeated. "Clara, I can explain." "No," I said, cutting him off. "There is no explanation. There are only facts. And the facts are this. You have been having an affair with my best friend. And together, you have been systematically stealing money from our company and our personal accounts. I have bank statements. I have emails. I have the registration documents for her shell company. I have everything." I let that hang in the air. The silence in the room was deafening. "So here is what is going to happen," I continued, leaning forward. "You have 2 choices. Option 1. You pack a bag with your personal belongings, you sign a separation agreement that gives me the house and 100% of the business, and you walk away. In exchange, I will not file a police report for embezzlement." He stared at me, speechless. "Option 2, I said, my voice dropping lower. "You refuse. And I take my entire file of evidence to the district attorney's office first thing tomorrow morning. I will press full charges against both you and Maya. You will both be arrested for felony fraud. And I will still divorce you. Only then I will take you for everything you have in civil court as well. Your choice." Just then the doorbell rang. Leo and I both jumped. He looked at the door in a panic. That's probably Maya," he whispered. "She was supposed to meet me here before we left for dinner." A slow, cruel smile spread across my face. "Good," I said. "Let her in. This conversation involves her too." Leo looked like he was going to be sick. He was trapped. He slowly got up and walked to the door. I could hear him whispering frantically to her in the entryway, but I couldn't make out the words. A moment later, Maya walked into the living room. She was dressed up for her birthday dinner, wearing a beautiful new dress. And around her neck was the diamond necklace. She saw me sitting on the couch, and her face went white. "Clara," she breathed, her eyes wide with shock. "What are you doing here? I thought you were." "You thought I was at the beach," I finished for her. "I know what you thought. I came home early. Please have a seat. We were just discussing your consulting company." Maya looked at Leo, her eyes full of panic and accusation. He wouldn't meet her gaze. She sat down stiffly on the edge of an armchair, her hands clutching her small, expensive purse. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice trembled. "Oh, I think you do," I said.
Innovate Solutions LLC.
ring a bell? The company you've been using to accept $50,000 in fraudulent payments from my husband, from my business. I stood up and walked over to the coffee table. I reached into my purse and pulled out a thick manila folder. I opened it and spread the contents across the table. The bank statements, the printed emails between her and Leo, the photos of them together, the company registration with her name on it. This is just a small sample of the evidence I have, I said calmly.
I have it all, Maya.
Every last dollar. Every last lie. She stared at the papers, her carefully constructed composure crumbling. Clara, please, she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. It wasn't like that, wasn't it? I asked, my voice laced with ice. It looks exactly like that. It looks like my husband and my best friend betrayed me in the most disgusting way possible. It looks like you both conspired to steal from me. It looks like you were building a new life for yourselves on the wreckage of mine. I turned my attention back to Leo. He was staring at the floor, a broken man.
So, Leo.
We're back to your two options. Sign everything over or go to jail. What's it going to be? He looked up, his eyes pleading. Clara, don't do this. We can work this out.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Your sorrow is about 3 days and $50,000 too late, I said flatly. There is no working this out. There is only the consequences of your actions. You have 1 hour to decide. Maya started to sob, a theatrical, self-pitying sound that made my skin crawl. You can't do this to us, she cried. We love each other. I laughed. A real, genuine laugh, but it was harsh and humorless. You love each other? On my dime? Your love is a transaction, Maya. And I'm closing the account. As for you, I said, pointing a finger at her, my lawyer will be in touch tomorrow. You will be expected to pay back every cent you stole. If you don't, the same offer I made Leo applies. You can explain your love to a judge. I turned and walked towards the stairs. I'm going to go pack your bag for you, Leo. I'll be generous and give you a few changes of clothes. You have until I come back down to make your decision. And Maya, I said, pausing at the bottom of the staircase. Happy birthday. Upstairs, in our bedroom, my bedroom, I moved with a detached efficiency. I pulled one of Leo's suitcases from the closet. I packed a few pairs of jeans, some shirts, socks, underwear. The basics. I left his expensive suits, his designer shoes, his collection of watches. Those were bought with company money. They were mine now. As I was zipping the suitcase, I saw a small, gift-wrapped box on his nightstand. It was for Maya's birthday, no doubt. Another trinket bought with my money. I picked it up, walked into the bathroom, and dropped it into the toilet without a second thought. I flushed. It was a small, petty act, but it was immensely satisfying. When I came back downstairs, Leo was sitting exactly where I had left him, his head in his hands. Maya was gone. The front door was slightly ajar. She had run. She had abandoned him the second the fantasy fell apart. It was almost poetic. She left, Leo said, his voice muffled. Of course she did, I said, placing his suitcase on the floor by the front door. The money's gone. What's to stick around for? He looked up at me, his face ravaged with despair. I'll sign, he whispered. I'll sign whatever you want. I thought you might, I said. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. I'm texting my lawyer now. She will email you the documents. You can sign them electronically. You have 10 minutes. Once I receive confirmation that they are signed, you can leave. He nodded numbly. He pulled out his own phone, his hands shaking. A few moments later, I heard the ping of an incoming email. I watched him as he opened the file, his face pale as he scrolled through the pages that signed away his entire life. He didn't read them. He just went to the signature line and scrawled his name with his finger. My phone pinged. It was a confirmation email from Eleanor. We have it. It's done. I looked at Leo. It's done, I said. You can go now. He stood up slowly, like an old man. He looked around the living room, at the life he was leaving behind. His eyes were empty. Clara, he started, his voice cracking. I never meant. Don't, I said, my voice sharp. Don't you dare try to justify what you did. Just get out of my house. He picked up his suitcase. He didn't look at me again. He walked out the front door and closed it behind him. And then there was silence. I stood alone in the middle of my living room. The evidence was still spread all over the coffee table. The house was mine. The business was mine. The money was mine. I had won. But I didn't feel victorious. I just felt empty. The adrenaline that had been coursing through me for the past 2 days was gone, leaving a hollow ache in its place. I sank onto the sofa and finally, for the first time since I heard their voices in the hall, I cried. I cried for the man I thought I had married. I cried for the friend I thought I had. I cried for the trusting, naive woman I used to be. She was gone, and I wasn't sure if I would ever get her back. The days that followed were a blur of legalities and logistics. David and Eleanor handled everything with ruthless efficiency. The locks on the house were changed. The business was formally restructured under my sole ownership. A formal demand letter was sent to Maya. 2 days later, Eleanor called me. "Good news," she said. "We received a wire transfer from Ms. Reynolds' attorney for the full amount, $52,780. That covers the fraudulent payments and the estimated value of the gifts. It seems she is very motivated to avoid a conversation with the district attorney." "What about Leo?" I asked. "He's staying with his mother," Eleanor said. "From what I hear, he's not taking it well." I could only imagine. His mother, Brenda, had always coddled him. She believed he could do no wrong. I was sure he had spun her a sob story about how I had overreacted, how I had cruelly thrown him out. I was waiting for her call. It came that afternoon. Her name flashed on my phone screen, and I took a deep breath before answering. "Clara," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "I cannot believe what you have done to my son. You threw him out with nothing. Nothing. After everything he has given you." "What exactly has he given me, Brenda?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "A life. A beautiful home. He built that business from the ground up," she shrieked. I let out a short, sharp laugh. "He built it? Brenda, that business was built with my father's inheritance. Your son was a glorified employee who decided to start paying himself and his mistress out of the company coffers. I didn't throw him out, I fired a thief." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. "Mistress? What are you talking about?" "He told me you two were just having problems. He was having an affair with Maya," I said bluntly. "For months. They were stealing from me together. I have proof of all of it. So if you want to be angry at someone, be angry at your son for throwing away his entire life because he couldn't keep his pants on or his hands out of the company bank account. Do not ever call me again to defend him. We have nothing more to say to each other." I hung up before she could respond. I blocked her number. I was done with the entire family. I was cutting them out of my life like a cancer. The next week was about reclaiming my space. I packed up all of Leo's remaining belongings, his clothes, his books, his stupid video games, into boxes. I called his mother and told her she had 24 hours to have someone pick them up from the porch, otherwise they would be donated. A van came the next day. I went through the house, room by room, purging every memory of him. I threw out the photos of us together. I changed the bedding. I even rearranged the furniture in the living room. It was my house now, and I wanted it to feel that way. The hardest part was dealing with the social fallout. Our friends were confused. They had heard we split up, but no one knew the real story. I got texts and calls from mutual friends asking what happened. I kept my answers short and consistent. Leo and I have separated. It was not amicable. I'm not ready to talk about it, but I appreciate you checking in. One of my closest friends from the group, Sarah, invited me out for coffee. I knew she wouldn't let it go that easily. We sat at a small cafe, and after a few minutes of small talk, she finally asked the question that was on her mind. "What happened, Clara?" she said gently. "And where is Maya? No one has heard from her. She's not answering her phone." I decided to tell Sarah the truth. She was a good person, and she deserved to know who she was friends with. I gave her the condensed version. The affair. The stealing. The confrontation. Her jaw dropped. "Oh my God," she whispered. "I had no idea. Leo and Maya? I can't even picture it." "Neither could I said with a wry smile. "But I have the bank statements to prove it." "I am so sorry, Clara," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "That's monstrous. Both of them. What are you going to do?"
"I've already done it," I said. "He's gone."
"She's paid me back. The business is mine. I'm moving on." News travels fast in a close-knit group of friends. Within a week, everyone knew. Maya and Leo were social pariahs. No one took their side. Their betrayal was too blatant, too greedy. They had not only cheated, they had stolen from a friend. It was an unforgivable sin in our social circle. I focused on work. I threw myself into the business with a renewed passion. I renamed the company, wanting to shed the last remnants of Leo's influence. I hired 2 new talented young people to replace him. The business didn't just survive, it thrived. Our profits in the next quarter were up 20%. It turned out Leo's creative genius wasn't as essential as he thought it was. In fact, his sloppy expense reports and fraudulent consulting fees had been a significant drain on our resources. Without him, the company was leaner and more profitable. I saw Maya once, about 2 months after the split. I was at the grocery store, and I turned a corner, and there she was. She looked terrible. She had lost weight, there were dark circles under her eyes, and she was wearing old, worn-out clothes. She saw me at the same moment. Fear and shame flashed across her face. She immediately abandoned her cart and practically ran out of the store. I just stood there, watching her go. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pity. I felt nothing at all. She was a stranger to me now. Life settled into a new normal. A quiet, peaceful normal. I enjoyed my own company. I reconnected with old friends. I spent more time with David. I started to feel like myself again, but a stronger, more resilient version. The scar from the betrayal was still there, but it no longer ached. It was just a part of me now, a reminder of what I had survived. One evening, about 6 months after it all happened, I was at home, reading a book, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Clara, it's Leo. I know you hate me, but I'm in trouble. I can't find a job. My mom kicked me out. I have nowhere to go. Can you please just lend me some money? Just enough to get a deposit on an apartment. I'll pay you back. I swear." I stared at the message. The audacity of it was breathtaking. After everything he had done, after the humiliation and the theft, he was coming to me for a handout. He still saw me as his safety net, his piggy bank. I thought about the woman I used to be, the trusting woman who would have felt a pang of guilt, the woman who would have considered it just to be kind. But that woman was long gone. He had killed her. I didn't reply. I didn't agonize over it. I simply pressed the block button. I blocked the number, without a second thought. He had made his choices. He had burned his bridges. Now he had to live with the consequences. I put my phone down and went back to my book. A small smile touched my lips. He had taught me a valuable lesson, a lesson that had cost him everything and given me back myself. Never show your hand until the game is already won. And never, ever give a second warning. The silence was my final answer. It was the most powerful one I had. The silence, however, was not the end of the story. It was simply the end of my direct involvement. The ripples of what I had done continued to spread, and I heard about them through the grapevine, mostly from Sarah, who had appointed herself my unofficial intelligence officer. A week after I blocked Leo's number, Sarah called me, her voice a mix of shock and morbid fascination. "You are not going to believe this," she said, without even a hello. "Guess who's working at the coffee shop downtown? The one we used to go to all the time?" I had a sinking feeling I knew the answer. "Don't tell me," I said. "Leo," she confirmed. "I just saw him. He was wiping down tables. He was wearing the uniform and everything. He tried to hide his face when he saw me, but it was definitely him." I was speechless for a moment. Leo, who had prided himself on his expensive suits and his status as a business owner, was clearing away dirty cups for minimum wage. The irony was so thick I could taste it. Wow, I finally managed to say. Wow is right, Sarah said. And it gets worse. Or better, depending on your perspective. I heard from Mark, who knows his cousin, that his mom finally kicked him out because he was just lying on her couch all day feeling sorry for himself and not even trying to find a job in his field. Apparently, word got around about the embezzlement. No marketing firm in the city will touch him. So his reputation was completely ruined. The professional network he had spent years building was gone. He had become toxic. It was a harsh outcome, but it was a direct result of his own actions. He had not only betrayed me, he had committed a crime against our shared enterprise. In the business world, integrity is currency, and he had proven himself bankrupt. And Maya? I asked, almost reluctantly. I hadn't thought about her in weeks. Oh, that's the other thing, Sarah said, her voice dropping conspiratorially.
She's gone.
Like, completely gone. Her parents told a neighbor that she moved across the country to live with an aunt. They said she needed a fresh start, I guess paying back 50 grand and having all your friends hate you will do that. A fresh start. It sounded so clean, so hopeful. But I knew it was a flight. She was running from the consequences, from the shame. She had to erase her entire life in the city where she grew up because of what she had done. She had lost her friends, her reputation, and her financial security in one fell swoop. Her love affair had cost her everything. After that call, I made a conscious decision to stop asking about them. I told Sarah, gently, that I appreciated her updates, but I didn't need them anymore. Their story was over for me. Hearing about their downfall had provided a certain grim satisfaction initially, a sense that justice had been served. But now, it just felt like listening to gossip about strangers. Their lives were no longer connected to mine in any meaningful way. I had cut the cord. I focused on my own life. I started traveling, not to fancy resorts, but to places I had always wanted to see. I took a solo trip to Italy and spent 2 weeks exploring museums and eating pasta. I went hiking in the mountains with David. I was rediscovering who I was without the titles of wife or business partner. I was just Clara, and I was finding that I quite liked her. My company continued to grow. We landed a major new client, Mr. Henderson, the very man I had called to secure my position during the initial fallout. He had been impressed with my handling of the transition and the company's subsequent performance. I have to say, Clara, he told me during a lunch meeting, when you first told me you were taking over solo, I was a bit concerned. Leo was always the face of the company. I know, I said. He was good at the sales pitch. He was, Mr. Henderson agreed. But you're good at the follow-through. The execution. The company is stronger and more efficient than it has ever been. You've done a remarkable job. His words meant more to me than any financial statement. It was validation. It was proof that I was more than just the organized wife behind the scenes. I was the engine. I had always been the engine. I just hadn't known it. About a year after the divorce, David convinced me to go to a charity gala he was co-chairing. I wasn't interested in dating, but I wanted to support him. I bought a new dress, a sleek, elegant black gown that made me feel powerful and confident. At the event, I was talking to a group of people when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around and found myself face to face with Brenda, Leo's mother. I hadn't seen or spoken to her since our angry phone call. She looked older, more tired. The fire was gone from her eyes. Clara, she said, her voice quiet. You look wonderful. Brenda, I said, my tone polite but cool. I'm surprised to see you here. My friend bought a table, she said, wringing her hands. I wanted to apologize for what I said to you on the phone. I was upset. I didn't know the whole story. I just looked at her, waiting. Leo finally told me everything, she continued, her voice trembling slightly. The affair. The money. All of it. He's not the man I thought he was. I was wrong to defend him. I was wrong to blame you. You were right to do what you did. It was a shocking admission. I had never expected an apology from her. I had written her off as a lost cause, an enabler who would always see her son as a blameless victim. "Thank you, Brenda," I said, and I meant it. Her apology didn't change anything, but it closed a door that I had thought would remain forever open. "I appreciate you saying that. He's in therapy now," she added, as if that would fix everything. "He's trying to get his life back on track." "I hope he does," I said honestly. I no longer wished him ill. I just wished him out of my life. His success or failure was irrelevant to me now. She nodded, and for a moment, it seemed like she wanted to say more. But she just gave me a sad, resigned smile and walked away. The encounter left me feeling strangely peaceful. It was the final confirmation that I had made the right choices. Even the person who had been his staunchest defender now saw the truth. Later that evening, David introduced me to one of his colleagues, a man named Julian. He was an architect with kind eyes and a warm, easy smile. We talked for over an hour about everything and nothing. Travel, books, our shared love for old movies. It was the first time I had felt a spark of interest in someone since Leo. It was a small spark, but it was there. When he asked for my number at the end of the night, I gave it to him, without hesitation. I wasn't afraid anymore. The betrayal had broken me, but it had also forged me into someone stronger. I knew my own worth now. I knew I could survive anything. I had faced the worst, and I had come out on the other side, whole and free. As I left the gala, I thought about Leo and Maya. I pictured him in his coffee shop uniform, his pride in tatters. I pictured her in some strange city, living with an aunt, haunted by the ghost of a life she had thrown away for a lie. They had gambled everything on my weakness, and they had lost. I, on the other hand, had built a new life from the ashes of my old one. A life that was entirely my own. A life filled with purpose, peace, and the promise of a new beginning. They had tried to steal my future. Instead, they had inadvertently given me a better one. And for that, in a strange, twisted way, I was almost grateful. The best revenge, I realized, wasn't just their downfall. It was my own quiet, unassailable success. It was my happiness. My relationship with Julian developed slowly, cautiously. I was transparent with him from the beginning. I didn't give him all the sordid details of my divorce, but I told him I had been through a significant betrayal and was still learning to trust again. "Take all the time you need," he said, his expression open and sincere. "There's no rush. Let's just enjoy getting to know each other." His patience was a balm to my bruised heart. He never pushed, never pried. He was content to let me set the pace. We went on dates that were simple and comfortable. Walks in the park, visits to art galleries, cooking dinner together at his apartment. It was a world away from the flashy, expensive lifestyle Leo had cultivated. With Julian, everything felt real, grounded. One Saturday, about 3 months into our dating, he invited me to a barbecue at his parents' house. I was nervous. Meeting the parents felt like a significant step. But the moment I met them, my anxiety melted away. They were warm, funny, and welcoming. His mother gave me a hug, and his father immediately started telling me embarrassing stories about Julian's childhood. I felt more at home with them in 5 minutes than I ever had with Brenda in 5 years. As we were helping clean up in the kitchen after dinner, Julian's mother, Carol, touched my arm. "Julian has told us a little about what you went through," she said softly. "I just want you to know, we're so glad he met you. You have a good heart. I can see it in your eyes." Her simple, unprompted kindness brought tears to my eyes. I had become so accustomed to suspicion and betrayal that genuine warmth felt like a revelation. It was in that moment, standing in a stranger's kitchen, that I realized how much I had healed. The armor I had built around my heart was starting to come down. Work continued to be a source of pride and fulfillment. I had fully stepped into my role as CEO, and I discovered I had a talent for leadership I never knew I possessed. I wasn't just the organized one anymore. I was the visionary. I guided the company in new directions, taking calculated risks that paid off handsomely. My employees respected me, not out of fear, but because I treated them fairly and valued their contributions. The office, once a place of tension and deceit, was now a collaborative and positive environment. One afternoon, my assistant buzzed my intercom. "Clara, there's a man here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment. His name is Leo." My blood ran cold. I hadn't seen him since the day I kicked him out of my house, over a year and a half ago. What could he possibly want? My first instinct was to tell my assistant to send him away. But curiosity and a small, uncharitable part of me that wanted to see what he had become got the better of me. "Send him in," I said, my voice steady. I stood up and walked around to the front of my desk, leaning against it. I wanted to be on equal footing. I was no longer the wife he could manipulate. I was the CEO of a company he had tried to ruin. He walked in, and I was taken aback by his appearance. He was thin, and his cheap suit hung off his frame. His hair was unkempt, and his face was etched with lines of stress and fatigue. The arrogant, charming man I had known was completely gone. This was a man who had been humbled by life. "Clara," he said, his voice raspy. "Thank you for seeing me. What do you want, Leo?" I asked, my tone businesslike. He fidgeted, not meeting my eyes. I came to apologize."
For real this time?
"Not in a text message asking for money." He winced at the memory. "What I did was unforgivable. I know that. I was arrogant, and I was a fool. I threw away the best thing in my life for nothing." "It wasn't nothing, Leo," I corrected him. "It was a choice. You chose to betray me.
You chose to steal from me.
Those were your decisions." "I know," he said, finally looking up at me. His eyes were filled with a deep, weary sadness. "And I have been paying for them every single day. I lost everything. My career, my friends, my self-respect. That is the natural consequence of your actions," I said, my voice devoid of sympathy. "I know," he repeated. "I'm not here to ask for your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not here to ask for money. I'm just here to say that I am truly, deeply sorry for the pain I caused you. You were my partner and my friend, and I treated you like an obstacle. And I will regret that for the rest of my life." He seemed sincere. The desperation was gone, replaced by a hollow resignation. He had hit rock bottom and was now trying to climb back out. "Okay," I said. "Apology accepted." He looked surprised. "Really?" "Yes," I said. "Not because it changes anything, but because I am done carrying around the anger. It doesn't serve me anymore. Your apology is for you, Leo. My forgiveness is for me. Now, if that's all, I have a meeting to get to." I had no meeting, but the conversation was over. I had nothing more to say to him. He nodded, a flicker of his old self-pity in his eyes. "I heard you're seeing someone," he said quietly. "My personal life is no longer your concern," I said, my voice sharp. "Goodbye, Leo." He turned and walked out of my office. I watched him go, and I felt a sense of finality. This was the true end. Not the dramatic confrontation, not the legal papers, but this sad, pathetic whimper. He was a ghost from a past life, and I was finally completely free of him. That night, I told Julian about Leo's visit. We were sitting on my couch, the same couch where I had confronted Leo and Maya. But now it was a place of comfort and safety. "How do you feel?" Julian asked, his arm around me. "I feel light," I said, surprised to find it was true. For the longest time, a part of me was still waiting for a real apology, a real acknowledgement of what he did. And now that I have it, I realize I didn't need it after all. I was already fine. "You're more than fine," he said, kissing the top of my head. "You're incredible." I leaned my head on his shoulder, feeling a profound sense of peace. The storm was over. The wreckage had been cleared away. And in its place, something new and beautiful was growing. A few months later, Julian and I decided to move in together. We decided to sell both of our places and buy a new house, a place that had no history, a place that would be ours from the very beginning. While packing up my office at home, I found the folder. The one with all the evidence. The bank statements, the photos, the emails. I had kept it just in case. A reminder of the leverage I held. I picked it up and walked out to the backyard. I stood over the barbecue grill, the same one Leo and I had used for countless summer parties with our friends, with Maya. I opened the folder one last time and looked at the picture of them, laughing and in love, funded by my money and my trust. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel pain. I just felt a distant pity for the two people who had valued so little and in doing so had lost so much. I took the papers and dropped them into the grill. I lit a match and watched as the edges curled and blackened, the faces and figures turning to ash. I was letting go of the last piece of the past. I didn't need the evidence anymore. I didn't need the reminder. My new life was proof enough. The business, my home with Julian, my own rediscovered strength, that was my victory. The smoke curled up into the clear blue sky and disappeared. The past was gone, and my future was bright, and it was all my own.